Hello again, and welcome back to Honest Storytellers Night. I'm Josh, and joining me as always, my co-host Nathan.
Hello.
So let's start off with how are you doing, Nath? How have you been this past week?
Not too bad. Well, slightly more than a week, but yeah. Getting preparations done in work for our Estin visit. So if people don't know Estin, it's one of those kind of school inspectors. So
Yeah.
I had them in the last couple of days, and it's been really positive. So that's really good. As I knew it would. We're getting better and better. It's going from strength to strength. That's pretty good. Other than that, I'm playing the same old games, Doom and Car Dealer Simulator, which I've pretty much finished now because there isn't much else I can do on Car Dealer Simulator. So it'll be getting some other games, but there's been some updates on some other games and so on. Obviously GTA and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, lots going on. How about you?
Well, I've been ill the past week, as you may or may not know. But whilst I've been ill, I've decided to. I kept this away from you the past couple of days, but I've been rewatching The Lord of the Rings extended edition only. But I'm also listening to what you have been pounding my head with to listen to for the past God knows how long. I am finally listening to it, and I think I'm at the Entmoot.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of Lord of the Rings, not to interrupt, there's something I've been memorizing.
Go on.
Ashnas Durbatuluk, Ashnas Grimbatul, Ashnas Frakatuluk, Agbusamuchi Kimbatul. Because I didn't know it before. So I know obviously the whole thing in English, but I thought I got to learn it in Black tongue as well.
Black speech, of course.
Yeah,
of course. Just to cement yourself into the geeky world.
Well, yeah, because I've got several One Rings. So if I'm wearing it, it's like, what does that say? Then I can do it properly, can't I? Rather than just One Ring, two of them all. So I thought, yeah, I got to do that. So yeah, been doing that as well this week. Well, last couple of days.
You can say it in Black speech, and then you can follow up with, but in the common tongue, it's known as.
Yeah, and it's just a part of the main poem that says, yeah, 3 rings for elven kings, and it's got, yeah, I can do all that. So it has to be done, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. But now I've finally listened to
what do you think of it?
Honestly, mate, I'm surprised I haven't listened to it earlier. I've listened to so many audiobooks, bar that one.
Yeah, because it's the original radio, and the radio show is brilliant. And as much as I love Andy Serkis, I love that version of Gollum because obviously he did the voice as well for the old cartoon.
Yeah.
And I just love the voice. And the people you look at, it's like, oh my God, Ian Holm was Frodo. And obviously he was Bilbo later. And it's just like, oh my God. And you don't even realize who some of the people are. It's like, really? It's like, oh my God. It's like classic people. Sadly, a lot of them have passed away since.
Yeah.
Pretty much all of them, I expect, have probably passed away since. So it's kind of like sad as well. But it's brilliant. I grew up with that thing. And it's so long as well, and it's brilliant.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. Like I think I've spent approximately 6 days to 7 days on the trot. Like whilst I've been bedridden for the Monday and Tuesday, I was listening to it just in my room, reading or writing or whatever I was needing to do for college, and I was just having it on in the background. And that it's the perfect bridge in between in my eyes. You've got the books, you've got the films, and if you want a bit of both, you've got the radio and audiobooks.
Yeah, the radio show is just so good in it because it's done like it was a TV show, like, you know, old radio stuff was done with all the special effects, the sound effects, and everything else. It brings that extra kind of dimension to it, doesn't it? I've loved it. I've loved a lot of the old BBC radio series. Like, one of my other favorite ones is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I love that, and the old TV show that they did on the back of that, like, as well, because that is just absolutely brilliant. The original radio show is just so fantastic. Really, really good. Love it. Love those old ones. Just don't do radio like that anymore.
No. So let's crack on with the topic for this evening.
Okay.
So there's a lot going on in the world right now, from politics, environmental change, company standard and so on and so forth. But let's take it down a peg. Let's talk about something that one of us has more love for than the other, but we both enjoy it just as we love it as each other, and that is Capcom's Resident Evil. We're going to speak about the past titles and the coming up title of Resident Evil 9.
Mm-hmm.
And I will just quickly say, out of the, I believe, in between 12 and 15 episodes we've done now, well, this would be the 12th. The 12 episodes that we've done now, I'm surprised I haven't actually, or yourself, brought up a whole narrative on a single game franchise. We haven't actually done that. And I feel like the best way to start that off is Capcom's Resident Evil.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, start off simple. What are your thoughts on Resident Evil 9 Requiem?
I haven't actually looked at much of it yet because it's so new still. I'm avoiding seeing too much about it.
Too much, yeah.
If you know what I mean. So I've not really looked into it a huge amount because I kind of want to see where they go next. And there's been so many rumors. It could be this, it could be that. But yeah, I'm not sure. Do you know this is actually episode 18?
18, not 12.
Yeah.
My bad.
18.
Wow.
18 weeks. Like, wow.
That's gone flying by.
Yeah.
But, more to the point, the whole reason why I wanted to speak about Resident Evil is mainly because of us two being big fans of the franchise. 2, we're in the middle of playing 6. We haven't gone back to it for quite some time, but it's there waiting for our return. And 3, I believe, in my opinion, we talk a lot more about Resident Evil as a game franchise than almost any other game franchise.
Probably because it's been around for so long, and we've both been big fans of it. You know, I've been playing Resident Evil since it first came out on the original PlayStation. So, you know, obviously before you were born and all that.
Yeah.
Because it's a long time ago. And I remember when it came out and it, like the video clip at the beginning, which is such poor quality. But back then it's like, oh my God, there's a video clip at the beginning. There's actually actors and, you know, you can see what's happening. It was completely crap and pixelated and rubbish and overacted and everything else. It was ridiculous, but my God, it was amazing for the time. You just didn't get that in games. And it was brilliant. And what I think the thing I loved most about Resident Evil was like the puzzles and so on. There's, you know, the zombies.
There wasn't a game like it.
It was puzzles, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I remember my dad telling me when he first got his hands on Resident Evil with my uncle, his brother, they didn't realize how complex it would have been. They're like, oh, cool, a brand new zombie game. Let's give it a go. My dad's fallen in love. My uncle fell in love. And I remember my dad telling me, I think about 3-4 years ago, when he first got it and he figured out that his first actual puzzle, which was the broken shotgun, and the wall falling down, and then you've got the whole, you were almost a gibbled sandwich.
Yeah.
My dad couldn't believe it.
Because you look at the kind of timeline of games, and it was around a similar time. I can't remember which came out first, a Tomb Raider, which in a lot of ways is a very similar kind of game.
You get
the similar kind of third-person view. You get a certain amount of guns and puzzles to try and figure out how to get to the next section and lock things. So there was a few of that kind of thing happening at the time, but it was unusual to get a kind of horror-based one.
Yeah, not to mention that Resident Evil Capcom was the first big gaming company that had snapped camera angles. You had camera angles that would snap, but on the bird's eye view, but snapped camera angles to look down different parts of corridors.
There
wasn't anything like that
No.
at the time. Yeah, there was nothing at all similar. The closest thing that came close was Silent Hill, which came a couple of years later.
Yeah, I loved Silent Hill as well. Silent Hill was good.
I've played Silent Hill, but I've always been more of a fan of Resident Evil, and that's just me being biased.
Yeah.
I enjoy them.
2 was good. 4 was quite good as well. They were just really good. I think 2 was a lot, but 1 was interesting, but 2 was the big one for me. That was the one I really, really enjoyed. Yeah, I loved that. Oh, so good.
But
so
no, I at the moment here on my screen, I've got chronological order of events for the main timeline of Resident Evil games. I would like to share it to you and the listeners. You already 90% know it. So, in first, you've got Resident Evil 0, which is set 1 to 2 days before Resident Evil. Then you've got Resident Evil.
Yeah.
You've got the first part of Resident Evil 3, which is before Jill Valentine gets knocked out by Nemesis and turns up in the hospital. Then the entirety of Resident Evil 2, sorry. And then the final part of Resident Evil 3.
Yeah.
Then Resident Evil Code Veronica, which takes 2 months after Resident Evil 2 and 3. Then you've got Resident Evil 4, which takes place 6 years after Resident Evil 2 and 3. Resident Evil Revelations 1, that takes place between Resident Evil 4 and 5. Resident Evil 5 comes up next. Then we've got Resident Evil Revelations 2, which takes place between Resident Evil 5 and 6. Then Resident Evil 6, Resident Evil 7, Biohazard, Resident Evil Village, and then Resident Evil 9 Requiem, which will be based approximately 5 years before Village and 7. So it takes place almost immediately after 6, is the big rumour. So yeah, that's the chronological order. Yeah, and I reckon there's going to be I think Capcom will go up to 15. If the franchise is still big, especially after 7 and 8 success. They'll just keep making remakes up until, I think, 5. They'll go up to Resident Evil 5 remake and then stop. And they'll just go up to 15.
So how many games are there total?
In the Resident Evil chronological event or timeline?
No, just how many total games are there named Resident Evil?
I do know the rough amount. I think it's about 50. It's 60. I'll get it up now. So Resident Evil game counts comes up to...
What's about 41 or something?
There are roughly 30 core and spin-off Resident Evil console games with the total number.
31 with the new one.
Including mobile and pachinko titles reaching around 60, which are canon events.
Yeah, but a lot of them, I meant more of the video games rather than pachinko and stuff like that, because then you're counting like pinball and everything else, and that's a bit, actual games that you could get on like console, PC, Game Boy. I meant the kind of video games, which is about 31 in it, yeah.
Yeah,
with the new one, 31, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so because there's so many, and then if you all the canon events, just it gets ridiculous, then, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
it could be anything,
I mean, I've played pretty much almost all of the main titles.
The other ones that are difficult to get is like the survivor ones, so like the light gun games for the PlayStation. So those that are more difficult.
It's the arcade games as well, like the old arcade ones. I've played 2 of them out of the possible 10.
Yeah.
And I've played one where it's based on the boat. I can't remember what that one's called. And there's one that... I forgot the other one. But I've played pretty much the majority of Capcom's Resident Evil, I have.
God, I forgot when Resident Evil Village came out.
2021.
Yeah, it's like, geez, that long ago. And it's only recently I played it.
I mean...
That's just mental.
Resident Evil 2 remake came out in 2019. Then 3 remake came out in 2020. Resident Evil Village came out in 2021. We should be due a remake after 9. Because we've had 4 remake. We've got 9. And I would like to see a Code Veronica remake, even though that it's highly confirmed or highly speculated that Zero will be the next remake.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't mind, but at the same time, I really would mind, because Resident Evil Zero is still... Yes, it's had 3 remasters, just like the original Resident Evil. You've got... When it comes to normal Resident Evil, the first game, you've got original, you've got remake, you've got HD remake, and then you've got HD remastered.
Yeah.
Resident Evil Zero, you've got Zero remastered, and then Resident Evil Zero HD remastered. They've got Resident Evil Zero's got enough as it is. We need a Code Veronica at some point.
Yeah,
that's one of the most beloved games in the franchise.
I remember when I came on PS2, I really liked Code Veronica. But it's back in the days when we had games like that, you didn't often end up completing them, because obviously in school and whatever else at the time, school or college, I can't remember where I was at the time when the first games came out. But I must have been in college and stuff. A lot of the games you just didn't complete at the time. You'd play them for a bit and then you'd go on to something else, because back when games started, there wasn't any completing games because they didn't often have a proper ending.
No.
So you kind of get into the habit of never actually playing a game to the completion of it, which is a weird thing thinking about it now, because you get all the different achievements and that sort of thing. So you're always striving to get to the end of the game and the end of the story. But back then, like the 90s and the 80s, you didn't so much complete all the games, because there'd be another game out that you'd want to play and something else. So it's a weird time compared with now, where everyone tries to complete them. Back then we never did. So I can't even remember completing like Resident Evil 1. I know I did. And Resident Evil 2 I remember, and 3. 2 was my favourite one. And I remember completing it like all the different times to get all the different characters and all that kind of thing you had to do. That was quite good. I can't remember if 3 did it as well. I think 3 did it as well.
I mean,
like extra characters and stuff.
Yeah, excuse me. I remember when my dad got me to first play the original polygon version of Resident Evil, and he had it as a PS3 upgrade version.
Yeah.
And he set it on the PlayStation 1 controls for the PlayStation 3 controller, which was interesting.
Yeah.
And we spent all summer holidays that year, we spent it almost every single day trying to, he was watching me to try and complete it.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I completed it 4 damn times. I loved it that much the first time. I just kept going back and back and back and back. And that's when I found out that it's been long enough. Resident Evil 1 has a HD remaster that came out that year.
Yeah.
I played the crap out of that, and it's my most played game to date. Over 1,000 hours clocked on PS4 and nearly 250 hours clocked on PS5.
Yeah. A lot of the games I haven't played that much, because I don't tend to play games that often again and again and again. There's a few games that I played multiple times, like Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty is one of my favorite games. That was so good when it came out. I love that game to pieces. It was so amazing and so different for its time. The scope of it, the cinematics, the ending was just bonkers. And you're going through this kind of stealth and everything else, and then you're against these massive bloody mech suit things. It's just like, what in the hell is this about? It was completely unhinged. And have you played? I'm guessing you've played it, have you?
That's one franchise I haven't even completed the first title. I got to...
Don't worry about the first one. Do Sons of Liberty, number 2. I won't spoil it for you, because it's a really weird thing that happens near the end. And it's very, very like, what in the hell? You've got to try it. It's so good.
Yeah, well, me and my dad, we're planning a 3-day weekend, of course, of just retro gaming. We'll do one entire day of many Resident Evil titles completed as possible between the two of us.
Yeah.
And then we'll do another day on as many Metal Gear Solid titles done as possible.
The rest of them I haven't enjoyed as much, but it's number 2 was just brilliant. Everything about it was really good at the time. The storyline was quite good. The mechanics of the game is quite good. And the ending, it's hard to explain how weird and unhinged the ending actually is when you get to it. It just makes you just question the whole game. It's weird. But they've done that a few times in those games. Was it Resident Evil? Was it the first game where they had the one where it's like on the original PlayStation, you obviously have the memory cards, and it would read the memory card and tell you about the games you played and stuff like that. And it's like, what the hell? And it knew what you were doing next, so you had to take the controller out and put it in the second player controller, because then he couldn't read your mind and know what you're going to do next. It's just like, what a weird thing to have in a game. And it was mind blowing at the time. Yeah, that was the original Metal Gear, I think. I can't remember. It's so long ago, but yeah, I can't remember if it was that or it was a different game. But that was like mental. But yeah, Metal Gear Solid is a weird ending. It's just like the whole end portion of the game is bizarre and doesn't feel like the rest of the game, and it's just very strange. But it's
well, with that weekend that I've got planned with my dad, I intend on getting from Resident Evil 1. I'm intending to get to at least, because my dad wants to play the remakes, not the original, because he hasn't played the remakes before. He's played the originals, and so have I. So we're going to go. I intend on one day going from Resident Evil 1 to, I think, 4 remake. Then straight up Metal Gear Solid to Metal Gear Solid 5. I want to get through all Metal Gear Solids on one day. And then I think the last day is Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9. Which is going to be...
I've never got into Final Fantasy at all. I just did not get on with them. The main thing is, and there's a lot of the games like that. I've played a lot of the kind of Japanese style RPGs like Chrono Trigger and all that sort of thing in the day, and I enjoyed them to a certain degree. But it's the battles. I don't like the turn-based mechanics they have in a lot of the battles. I don't enjoy that in any game. If I'm going to do a battle, I like to control it. I don't like to press a button and wait for some. You know what I mean? I don't like that style at all. And I've tried many games with that kind of style of thing, and I don't know. I don't enjoy it. I enjoy the rest of the game and the storyline, but that I don't like. Probably because I'm not rolling dice. You know,
I was just about to say that.
I want to roll dice.
Yeah, you want to roll dice.
And I'm not. So for me, it doesn't connect to me in any way. It doesn't feel like I'm taking control of it. It's like, for me, going back to other things that, feel right when you're gaming and other things don't, where you kind of connect to it, is the difference between like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter. Mortal Kombat, I think, is okay. Street Fighter, I think, is amazing because of the control method, how you control the characters, and it feels like you're controlling them and you're pressing different buttons for different type of moves, and it makes sense and it clicks in your head, right, this is light punch, this is heavy punch, I'll do this animation when I press this button, and it all makes sense and you feel connected to the character. You play Mortal Kombat and it feels pretty basic. It's, I'm just going to punch, kick, and I'm going to jump and kick, duck and kick, jump and kick, duck and kick, and kill anybody. And it just never felt the same kind of interaction.
Yeah.
And it's weird. I very much like that with games. I need to kind of feel like I'm part of it. If it takes me out of the equation and does something like automatically, or I have to wait for something to happen, it's like it takes the immersion out from it, and I just don't enjoy it. That's why I don't enjoy stuff like all the Horde games, World War Z.
We're both agreeing.
It's the same sort of thing because you're just waiting for something to happen. It's like, no, I want to be in the action. I want to be doing it. I don't want a squad-based thing. I tell the squad, you do this, you do that. I don't mind Red Alert, Command & Conquer. I've enjoyed those games in the past.
Red Alert was brilliant.
And the Alien versus Predator one I quite enjoyed like that. But not the squad-based shooter, because that's one thing, because you've got lots of different things to control. You're leveling up this so you can get this thing next. So you're always doing something. But like the squad-based ones where you go squad, you hide behind that and shoot those things, and then you're waiting for them to do it. And it's like, it doesn't feel like I'm part of it, so I don't enjoy that in the same way. It's a very weird kind of distinction between the games. But yeah, real-time, like RTS games I enjoy. Command & Conquer, Red Alert, the original Dune game, Dune 2000, because I'm a big fan of Frank Herbert's Dune and all that. Brilliant story, and I loved that game because you covered the whole story of Muad'Dib and everything else. That was good fun, doing the real-time strategy kind of thing. So that was good, and the like Warhammer 40k versions and all that. I've enjoyed those, but no, it's the ones where it's just squad-based and it's just like, what am I doing now? It's so boring. It doesn't feel like you have as much of a goal, isn't an interaction with it.
Well, let's move on because I've got 2 more topics to talk about when it comes to Resident Evil.
Right.
First topic being is, what fond memory do you have or have heard from someone else about their experience or your experience playing Resident Evil?
I'm actually not sure. I can't think of much off the top of my head, to be honest.
I'll give you an example. I believe I've told you this before in the distant past, but it was my dad, my uncle, and my other uncle Paul, who's like Gary to me. He's not my proper uncle, but he is family.
Yeah.
Those 3 were on the floor, having a game on Resident Evil. Bear with me, mate. All right, sorry, mate, I'm back.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I just had a phone call. So yeah, as I was saying, with everything, with my dad, my uncle, my dad and my 2 uncles, they were playing Resident Evil 2, and my dad saved before the Mr. X jumps down onto the descending elevator when you play as Leon.
Yeah.
And my dad saved with very little health, very little ammunition, and very little weapons in general. And they decided to sit down and not leave that screen until that encounter was done, completed. Because my dad said he thought that was it. Timer's done. Boss fight against William Birkin is pretty much done. I can go now. And I've confirmed it. Between all 3 people, it's the exact same story. The 42nd turn. All my dad had left was a half-broken knife.
Yeah.
After pumping all of his ammunition in, consuming all of his health, he was like, screw it, I'll go with the knife. The knife lasted him the exact amount of time for Ada to throw the RPG down. And when he blew him up, my granddad, my Umi and Upi, they came running downstairs, because at that point it was like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. Came downstairs and those 3 young lads were tearing the living room to shreds because they couldn't believe it. But that's the type that I mean. Like, have you heard of fond memory, or do you have a memory that you've had yourself?
Not really, to be honest. It's not any games like that. Multiplayer games more, but single player games, I just tend to sit in a room and just ignore the world and just play it. So I don't tend to have sort of that. To be honest, it was so long ago. It's only recently I've started to play them again, obviously, as the remasters, because I hadn't played a lot of the Resident Evil since they first came out, to be honest. There's a big chunk of time, obviously, family and Jack being a baby and all that I didn't really game at all. So, I was too busy working and then, doing everything with the kids and all of that. So I was out of it for a while. So not really anything, to be honest. For most games, I could say that, apart from recently when we've obviously been doing the multiplayer and all the ridiculous things we've been getting up to. But previous to that, not a lot. And if there was, well, that's a lifetime ago. Let's be honest. We're talking like the late 90s, and a lot more happened since then. Let's be honest. It's a long time ago.
I mean, you've played. I'm looking at your playlists now on your channel. You've played 7. You've played 1 remaster. You've played 2 remake, 3 remake. You did 1 episode on 4,
and it was dreadful, and I hated it just like I did first time around.
And then it was a while until you played 5 with me.
Yeah.
And then we did 4 episodes on 6, which is Leon's campaign. But yeah, I mean, I still can't get my head around why you don't like 4, but you actually enjoyed 5. They're very similar. with
still
action.
There's something about the camera angle and the control doesn't work for me in 4. There's something about it I just do not enjoy. And I don't know, it just never felt Resident Evil enough. And I think just there's something about the villagers and stuff. I don't know, there's something about it that doesn't feel like, 5 and 6 and so on is far enough removed from Resident Evil that it doesn't feel like Resident Evil. It doesn't feel like it's trying to be Resident Evil. It's something else kind of tagged onto Resident Evil. But 4 is supposed to be a Resident Evil, but it doesn't feel like a Resident Evil. So it's just got this weird thing in my head that it doesn't feel enough like Resident Evil, and I don't enjoy it.
You need to give the 4
weird.
Remake a go.
Yeah, but I have to spend money on that, and I just can't be bothered spending money on it.
You don't have... Oh, okay. Well,
that's why I haven't, because it's like, I can't be bothered to pay for that. There's other games more important.
I did get it last year on the cheap because of Halloween with the Resident Evil...
Yeah, but I'd already bought all the other Resident Evil games recently, and I was just like, nah, what the hell? Like, I don't know. There's just something that just puts me off about it. I don't know what it is, but I play it and I just don't get invested in it at all. I'm not sure what it is. But I said partly controls, which for some reason, the controls just are awful. Just everything about the control method and the camera angle.
I was the same, because when I first played it, I didn't give it time of day. I did about an hour and gave up because I didn't like the controls. I did not like the direction it was going.
Yeah.
And like we all know now, beginning of last year, I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'll give it a go. I completed it within 3 days, and I completed 4 Remake within the same amount of days. 3 days.
Do you know which version of 4 I played the most of? The mobile version, when I had it on my old phone. I think it might have been a Sony Ericsson phone. I can't remember. It was a long, long time ago. Like before, I think possibly before Android. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. So I haven't even got it anymore, I don't think. Because I don't think it was Android. I think it was like pre-Android. And I had it then, and I played it a little bit then, and it felt different, and it was a different control method. So it was kind of, I don't know, reasonable-ish, because it was a mobile game, so you didn't expect much of it. I don't know. Never connected.
These days, there's only 2 Resident Evil games that is on like an iPad or tablet, and that's 7 and 8. They're the only 2 Resident Evil titles that are on a touchscreen.
Yeah.
And considering that you're saying that there was 7, you played 4 before like Android, that's huge.
That's how I'm going to find. When was it?
Yeah.
When was it? It was so long ago. Oh, you can get Resident Evil 4 on the iPhone, potentially. I don't have an iPhone, so I don't care. Yeah, Resident Evil 4 Mobile Edition.
Yeah, I'm double checking now myself. So, Resident Evil on iPhone. Let's have a look. You can get 2. You can get 4, 7. I forgot you can get Alien Isolation. I remember that you can do Village.
Oh, I've got Alien Isolation on my phone. It's absolutely brilliant. It's hard to find any information on it, but yeah, I definitely have the mobile edition of it. It was weird. Very, very weird. Maybe it was on Android. I can't even remember. Or was it on Samsung before? I don't know. I can't remember what device I had it on. Oh no, it might have been on a Samsung. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. Oh, you can still possibly download it. There's 4 different versions across 6 mobile platforms. It's getting worse.
Yeah, I've literally just read the same exact thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yikes. The ratings for all of these Resident Evil games are actually kind of middle or bad for like iPhone and Android. Alien Isolation is completely 5 stars.
Alien Isolation is a perfect port.
The closest Resident Evil title that there is in comparison to 5 stars for Alien Isolation is Resident Evil 3 Remake with 4.5 stars.
Yeah. So it was on Android. Yeah, I must have had it on old Samsung, but then they took it away and I don't have it anymore.
Right, so
weird.
Final topic, which should bring us up just before we end the evening, is what would you consider a retro game? Because we know that the majority of Resident Evils, Final Fantasies, and Metal Gear Solid, they're all retro.
Not for me.
Not for you. For me, they kind of are. But the thing is, I acknowledge that Sonic, Zelda, the original Dooms, they're all retro. They are retro.
No, you see, I would go to games like Manic Miner, Jet Set Willy, Attic Attack. Those are retro games. School Days. Stuff like that. And you're going, what the shit? These are stuff from like the Spectrum 48K and things like that. That for me is retro. Pong is retro. The original games, they're retro. Everything else is a newer game. Because I've been around games since the 80s. So for me, retro means a very different thing. It's one of those weird things that if you're around for all of it, it's like there'll be games that you play that newer generations would call retro. It's like, that's not retro, that's still relevant. No, it's not. So I think I'm not the right person to decide what is retro, because for me...
no, I'm not saying decide. I'm saying...
No, I know, but I don't know what retro means. Because for me, retro is the first ones I played as a kid. The ones where you start getting like PlayStation... I don't know if I'd even consider PlayStation retro, because it still has a link to modern titles, where retro for me is something that's obsolete and
I see what you're going
around anymore, if you know what I mean. So retro will be things that they don't produce anymore. I know they've done remastered and new versions and created, the little boxes that with emulators and all that, but I mean the actual things no longer exist in any form. Whereas PlayStation, there's a iteration since. So is that really retro? And the first one, is that considered retro, or would it be something that came before that, like the Mega Drive? Is that retro? It's a difficult one that changes depending the audience you're speaking to, I guess. It's probably the best way to say if something's retro, like music and devices. Like some people say, certain mobile phones are retro. The younger you are, the more recently you were born, the newer retro is to you.
Okay, well, back. In that case, we'll change that and go with, what are your hopes for... I know you're trying to stay away from it, but what would you hope and want to happen in Requiem? Because we know that it's going to be going back to Raccoon City,
which is my biggest hope among anything else, is that it's in a city like Raccoon and there's zombies. That's my only requirement for a new Resident Evil game, is to actually have a Resident Evil game. Not a horror game based in the Resident Evil universe that has vampires and werewolves and ogres and trolls and dragons or whatever else. I want it to have zombies. I want to be walking around a city, breaking into buildings and finding, stupidly shaped keys that make no sense to open doors. So keys are shaped like swords and shields and trophies and shit like that. That's what I want. And you have to move statues. I want them to go back to what Resident Evil was.
You want them to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah. I want them to go back to what Resident Evil means. Resident Evil is about puzzles. Resident Evil is about zombies, not running zombies, shambling hordes of zombies that will grab you and you have to fight them off with your knife and stumble around. That's what I want. That's all I want from Resident Evil. I don't want vampires. As much as I love vampires, and they're one of my favorite topics, I don't play Resident Evil for vampires and stuff. There's other games out there for that. I want Resident Evil to be the traditional zombies. Yeah, they're not horrifying, and I want there to be super zombies and other weird creatures that have, developed from all the other mutations that they have. That's fine. And Albert Wesker being a complete menace, and all the other characters that have been injected with T virus or the G virus or whatever other virus they've got, and they turn into some sort of squidgy beast, but not too ridiculous, because this is my problem with a lot of the boss characters you get in like the Resident Evil games as they've progressed through the years. And it's the same problem I have with things like the Power Rangers. Exactly the same issue. So you've got this monster that shows up, it'd be like gold colored one or whatever. He's beating the crap out of everybody and he's throwing the Power Rangers around, and then he grows into this giant monster. And then they combine and beat him straight away. They do that too often in Resident Evil. You're getting your ass kicked by some guy, and then he turns into some big squishy thing, and you have to hit his eyeballs, and you can dodge him and hit his eyeballs. When he was running around as a guy, he kept kicking our ass. So why did he have to change some big squidgy monster that we could then defeat easier? You know what I mean?
Yeah, the perfect example to what you're saying is Albert Wesker in 5.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect example. You had that eyeball, the single eyeball at the top of his, on the middle of his neck, where his spinal cord is at the top.
Yeah.
And you had to deal with Albert Wesker's eyeball there when he's turned his back on someone. If he's chasing you, I have an opportunity to shoot his eye. If he's chasing me, you have an opportunity to shoot his eye.
Yeah.
But 2 chapters prior, we couldn't land a single goddamn bullet or punch on him. He was a guy
running around, and he was zooming across. You try and shoot him, and he was doing bloody matrix moves out of the way of the bullet. It's like, oh, this guy's impossible to beat. And then he turns into a squidgy thing and go, oh, look, there's his eyeball. Let's just shoot that. It's like, well, that's pointless, isn't it?
I will agree in what you're saying is it's getting repetitive. That's the word. It's repetitive. But the reason why it isn't boring repetitive is because they do it with different mechanics in different ways.
Well,
and
yeah,
that
is kind of the whole point, isn't it? Is you have to then learn the mechanics and the moves, and then you can kind of develop a strategy around it, which a lot of the things with Resident Evil has been strategy and puzzles. So you figure out what the problem is, find the solution, and do that.
A lot of the earlier titles, and you will more certainly agree with me here, is that it was more time consuming when you want to plan. So it's like, I want to get to this typewriter. I have this ammo, this health on me right now.
Yeah.
Let's go. And you're planning your route. You're planning what you need, what you don't need. And if you screw up, you reload, plan ahead, plan differently. It was a lot more time consuming.
Yeah. One of the biggest problems, though, with Resident Evil, from my point of view, for me being an idiot, is how many times you get a super magnum or something and you save the bullets, then the game ends. You've never shot it once.
Never shot it once.
How annoying is that? That you get this amazing, that you hope it's an amazing website. I'm going to save it for the boss. I'm going to save it for the boss. Oh, I finished. Damn. I've got all these bullets. Like, they do it on every single Resident Evil game without fail, don't you? You just can't help it because you don't want to use it. It's like you don't think you'll have enough ammo. It's like, I'm going to save that. And just, so frustrating. But I think all in all, the most frustrating thing about Resident Evil is item management. Sometimes it can be great. Sometimes it can just be absolutely bloody awful.
Resident Evil 0 is the worst. You have Rebecca Chambers and Billy. They have the same inventory slots. They have 6 each, but there is no chest, and you can drop items.
Yeah.
You say, like, you need a key. You have that key, but to get to that door, to use that key, you have to go through so many goddamn fights to get to that one door. You leave the key halfway across the map. You kill everything. You have no ammunition left. You have 1 health item left. I need to run all the way back to pick up that one damn key.
Yeah.
It's it's grinding my gears. Like my live streams that I'm currently doing, or that I need to get back into again for Resident Evil Zero. Oh, it's tremendous. There's so much stuff that you have to drop every single
and then it makes the game not as fun because then you're going back and forth.
Go back and forth, yeah.
But I've always hated, it's like, you've already got certain slots and you get a weapon. It takes up suddenly 4 slots. It's like, well, I can't carry this now, can I? Because I can't have the health. That's the thing that annoys me most, is the size of the slots. Because sometimes it's like, and then you're trying to do like the whole Tetris thing to get everything slotted in. It's just like, why can't I just have weapon slot regardless of the size instead of, oh, this one takes 3, and then you can't put anything in that one little space. And it's, yeah, that does my head in a lot.
I see what I want to see, and this is going more down the realism route. You picture a police officer. You've got a gun holster. That's not your pocket. That's a gun holster. I want to see in Resident Evil in the future your handgun. It doesn't count as an inventory slot. It counts as a shortcut. A shortcut.
You can have something to put a shotgun on your back or something. So there's ways for them to have that doesn't take into your
inventory slot.
Because you get a backpack in like Resident Evil 7 and stuff like that. But it never makes any sense because you're not actually carrying it. It's a weird inventory thing. You can go, oh, I've got a bigger backpack, but you don't actually use it like a backpack. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I see the closest we got to what I've just described and what you also agree on is when Resident Evil 2 Remake came out, the inventory pouches. Yeah. You get more pouches to extend your inventory. That was a brilliant idea.
Yeah, that works so much better because then it's like, oh, there's small pouches. Oh, there's the bigger pouch for there, so you can put things in different places, and that makes sense rather than just one big space that you have to try and fit everything into. It's like, there's this new gun, but you've got a sling you can put it in or something else, and that then makes sense because it's something that you're looking for. Because you might find, a pouch for this type of weapon. It's like, I don't have that weapon yet. I can get that weapon soon. Fantastic. And it makes you then look forward to what the next weapon would be because you have space for it.
Exactly. And it's the same with the knife because for Leon, his knife is always over his left pec. Yeah. And he just pulls it out from the handle. That's not inventory spot. That's not a pocket. Your knife is there, ready to go. That's a holster.
Yeah. If it's an inventory space, could I put a green herb in instead? And then you have a look at him, and he's got a green herb in his chest, and he looks like some kind of Who reject with like a piece of celery sticking out of his pocket.
Yeah,
why can't you do that then? If it's an inventory space, you can put someone else there, can't you? I don't want the knife. I want to put someone else. I want to put, a spray or
zombies
or something.
Have gunpowder, eh?
Yeah. Exactly. It's like, it's weird. And the way you make ammo has always been funny. It's like, and the whole green herb and red herb and blue herb and all that stuff is bizarre, isn't it? It's very, very strange stuff. It's what I liked about the newer ones, like Village and stuff, is when you find out what Ethan is and the whole story of that. Because like he gets his hand cut off, he just sticks it back on and then pours some juice on. It's like, hey, look, my hand's back to normal again. It's like, what the hell? It made sense then eventually when you see the whole story. But at first it was like, what the hell is this stuff he's having? Like, it'll just cure anything? It was weird, wasn't it?
I mean, I remember when I played 8 for the first time. I think I played it a year after it came out. And it started ticking in my mind. It's like, hold on. We don't know much about the main character here or his family. We don't know much about Ethan. We don't know much about his wife or his daughter. We don't know where he's come from. He's just appeared.
Yeah.
And then it hits you like, oh, when you went to go to the Baker family in Resident Evil 7, when you first get knocked out, you weren't knocked out. You were actually killed.
Yeah, it was.
And the mold brought you back to life.
It was
That's
an
amazing
twist. Yeah, it was a brilliant twist that made the whole of 7 make sense.
Make sense, yeah.
And I absolutely loved that about it because all the way through it's just like, this is weird. This whole game is like bizarre. What's happening? And then it just kind of like everything slots into place. It's like, now that's well planned sequels.
Yeah, because there's something that I always tell people because I had one of you remember Kay. From Canada, don't you?
Yeah.
She got into playing Resident Evil 8 a while back, I don't think she's actually completed it off the top of my head, but I remember telling her, and I will always say the same thing to everyone that starts playing Gate. Wait until you're halfway through the damn game. Don't speculate anything. Don't jump the gun or search anything, or just don't stop playing it because it's not making sense to 7. Once you get to Mia in the lockup in the castle and you see all the notes, it connects all of the original games. It connects Umbrella. It connects 7 to 8, and it connects 8 to 1, 8 to 2, 8 to 3, because there was more than one scientist in Umbrella. One scientist wanted to make a more mold and infectious type. Two scientists, William Berg and Albert Wesker, wanted to make it more airborne. And that's where they both split off. They still are, well, all three of them split off. They're all still a part of Umbrella, but doing their own little gander, their own little thing.
It makes you wonder what else there is.
Exactly, because there's hundreds of tyrants, there's hundreds of BOWs, and each of these animated films that comes out for Resident Evil, that's still proper timeline. That's still in the Resident Evil timeline.
While we've got a little bit of time, let's talk about the movie franchise as well.
Oh yeah, well,
obviously that's a completely different
thing.
Resident Evil, which is a shame because we both hoped they'd do a good adaptation, and so far they have not, which is frustrating.
The Mia Malkovich films, it is 6 films. Yeah, she's done so well carrying that franchise because
I love the first film more than all of them. The first film was brilliant.
The first one's the closest we got.
It had so much, but it did lead into 2 quite nicely as well. With kind of the Nemesis character, that all made sense, and that was a nice. And then it kind of got a bit
out of nowhere
after that. But that was good. I loved the first 2 movies. I think Mila Jovovich is a brilliant actress. I know she's done some of my favorite movies, and I just think she's amazing in everything anyway. But I'm biased because I think she's fantastic
in that first film. And I'll always say this to the day I die. The first film, the first Resident Evil film, that is the closest we've had to a faithful adaptation from the games. You had the mansion. You kept going deeper and deeper and deeper
into the hive.
Then you've got the laboratories, you've got the zombies, the liquor, and then you're getting out the way you came as quickly as possible. And then you have to divert to the train. That's the closest we've had to a faithful adaptation.
Even when she put the boots and the red dress and all, was like, this feels like Resident Evil. You know what I mean? It was just those moments, just like, this is cool, and it worked so well. And then it just kind of went a bit. I can understand some of it, with the whole Alice character being something a little bit different, and she's been changed and all of that, and she's an experiment. Yeah. Well, it kind of made sense, but the movie's just got a little bit kind of, it kind of strayed from the point. But the first movie, I just loved it. I had a really good DVD edition of that. It was like you opened it all up and it had all the maps and everything else. A brilliant DVD that was. So good.
So there's Resident Evil came out in 2002.
Yeah.
Then you had Resident Evil Apocalypse, which is the second one, that came out in 2004. Resident Evil Extinction, that came out in 2007. Resident Evil Afterlife came out in 2010.
Yeah.
Resident Evil Retribution came out in 2012. And then Resident Evil The Final Chapter came out in 2016.
Yeah.
And then we have the very, very big pile of steaming bollocks that is Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City.
Yeah, I avoided that like it was actually infected with a T virus. I just couldn't.
Me and Dad, when we walked out of that cinema room, we both looked at each other and we said, waste of money. After the first thing we both said to each other, waste of money.
When I saw clips and just like, and they've decided to change the story, and some of them were like brother and sister, and so it's like, oh, what are you on about? Oh, it's one of those things that annoys me about cinema. And don't get me started because they've made another Dracula movie.
Have they?
Another based on Bram Stoker's Dracula, allegedly. It's a French movie.
What is it called?
Dracula.
Just Dracula.
As far as I know, it's a French movie, but I'm not going to watch it. Do you know why? What they've done, so they've said it's based on Bram Stoker's Dracula. Only they didn't base it on the book. They based it on the Francis Ford Coppola bloody movie again, which was based on Nosferatu, which was loosely based on the book. So again, they've gone Bram Stoker's Dracula and they haven't based it on the goddamn book.
Literally, I'm looking at the cast that's being confirmed for Dracula: A Love Tale, which are coming in end of this year.
Yeah.
Christopher Waltz is the only guy that can carry this film.
Yeah. Oh, no, you have a look at Dracula. Like, you know the scene, you're obviously familiar with the Gary Oldman version of Dracula, yeah?
Yes.
Right, so you know when he's walking around with the top hat and all of that, and he looks kind of cool. Have a look at the difference in that scene compared with the new one. There's loads of screenshots of this guy, and it's just like, what?
I'll have a look after we've recorded, because I'm still shocked with what I've just seen with Christopher Waltz.
Yeah.
He's the only...
Besson has made it, and you think he could do quite good. It's a modern retelling of Bram Stoker's novel, set 50 years after last. But it's not a modern retelling of Bram Stoker's novel because they just made a lot up. So the story revolves around a 15th century prince who renounces God and becomes a vampire after his wife's death. Centuries later, encounters a woman who resembles his late wife, pursues her, sealing his fate. So that is a rip-off of the old movie that has nothing to do with the book. None of that happened in the book. At all. In any way. And yet they say that it's based on the book, and it's not even close to the book. Oh, it winds me up that people say they're basing things on the book, and they obviously haven't read the goddamn book.
Right, just before we conclude this evening, there is one thing we have left to talk about for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
As much as it hurt, because one of our favourite actors is in this, the Resident Evil Netflix series was the biggest letdown.
I watched 2 minutes of it.
I watched it all because it's Resident Evil. I will always give it a go. I'll watch it all just to make an actual dictation at the end of it. The only thing that was good about it was that even though Lance Reddick is black, Albert Wesker's white, Lance Reddick did a very, very good job given the story of Albert Wesker. That's it. And the Lickers were actually really good in that show.
You know, all I watched was the beginning with a rabbit. And it was like, this is stupid, and I turned it off.
Yeah.
Because that bit was just so goddamn stupid. In every way, it was every cliche about zombies and viruses and all that. They packed into the first 2 minutes of it. I was just like, I'm not watching this crap. And I didn't watch another minute of it after that scene. It just made no sense. Why?
I'm telling you now, you're grateful you ain't watching all of it.
Oh, I've been there many times where I've stopped watching something and thought, well, I'm not going to bother with that.
And it came out to be rubbish after you read about it.
Yeah, it was just...
The only thing that I usher you to watch from it is the whole Lickers sequence.
I've seen clips of it and seen clips of Lance Reddick because he's always really good. But,
may he rest in peace. His birthday was the other week.
Yeah, I know. It's sad, isn't it? It's like, all the John Wick stuff, and people still, when you see interviews with the cast about this new John Wick spin-off ballerina, they're still going on about him, how brilliant he is. And it's like, he's not even in the movie, and they're talking about him, and it's just like, oh, it's crazy, and he left such an impact. As people like that always do. Yeah, it's sad.
Oh man, I'm going to start tearing up if we keep talking about Lance. I loved him. He's been a great actor.
But, it's one of those things. It's a sad loss, but at least he hasn't seen what has happened to Destiny since.
No, I'm happy about it, yeah.
Because he loved Destiny, as much as anybody else in the world. And it would break his heart to see what has happened to that game and what has been happening to Bungie. It really would, because he loved the community, didn't he? And it's just
I generally feel like, now that we've gone off topic for like the final 2 minutes, which is fine, I'm one of those people that is a firm believer now that if Lance Reddick was still alive, none of this would be happening with Bungie.
No.
Because he was the bridge. He was the common denominator. He made the fans a part of Bungie, and he made Bungie fans.
It would have been great to have had him as like community manager or something, you know? That would have been amazing. Imagine that.
Mate, that's like the perfect dish. That's the perfect storm.
Yeah, would have been.
Not even in a bad way. That's perfection. With him and Damage as well.
Yeah.
So Damage as content lead, and then Lance Reddick as normal lead.
What's happening now with all those job adverts they've got out for pretty much every
when you sent me that,
Bungie.
yeah.
But it wasn't just Marathon. You look at all the like Destiny
stuff.
Destiny 2, and just plain Destiny as well. Do you notice? Some of it was just titled Destiny rather than specific Destiny 2. So it's just like they seem to be replacing everybody. Like, I bet Skeletor's going to have something to say about that.
Yep.
You have to look out for that one. Oh, I love that guy that does Skeletor. Oh my god, those videos are just the best thing on the internet. Oh. But anyway, we should probably end it there.
Anyways, well, yeah, I was about to say we should end it there. Well, you can find myself on Twitch at the Welsh Assassin 998 and on YouTube at the Welsh Assassin. Nath?
And you can find me on Twitch under the name Nukami, or on YouTube under the name Wasn't My Fault.
Thank you for tuning in for this week's episode, and until next week, bye-bye.
See you later.